To open the presentation is Syed Siddiq Ahmed, the Senior Manager, Standards Implementation and Regulatory Authorities Coordination at Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions, AAOIFI. Is sure that you're aware, I'm sure you're aware of this organization. It's the leading international not-for-profit organization that develops and issues standards for global Islamic finance industry. Brother Ahmed joined AAOIFL in January 2018. Today, he is responsible for the implementation and adoption of standards globally, as well as coordinating and communicating with regulatory and supervisory institutions. These include central banks, securities, and insurance commissions from across the globe. Brother Ahmed also handles industry-related research and publications at AAOIFI. During his tenure, he has contributed to the development of its governance standards and has represented in various events, meetings, and conferences in various jurisdictions. Prior to joining AAOIFI, Brother Ahmed was a research economist at the General Council for Islamic Banks and Financial Institutions, CIBAFI, where he is responsible for policy, regulatory affairs, research, and publication. In addition, Brother Ahmed worked for the HSBC Group and is an alum of INCEIF in Malaysia. Please give a warm welcome to Syed Siddiq Ahmed, who has traveled all the way from Bahrain to be with us here today. Brother Ahmed. That's commitment.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Dear professors, distinguished guests, experts, and my dear friends. It is indeed a great pleasure to travel all the way from Bahrain, around Baghdad, all the way from Bahrain to join the third North American Islamic Finance Conference here in Houston. Firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Main Al-Khuda for inviting us as IOFI to this prestigious conference, and also to the team and volunteers of NACIF, especially Dr. Jordan, and who's been quite helpful and quite hospitable here in before and during our stay here in Houston. Well, my presentation is on Islamic finance for empowering communities, bridging ethics, financial inclusion, and social impact. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There are a couple of things that I'd like to discuss. One of the things that is missing here is financial inclusion, which I will include it during the course of my presentation. About IOFI, I'm sure many of you or all of you might be aware of what IOFI is, but just a quick introduction of IOFI. The legal status, IOFI is an international organization, a non-profit organization for Islamic finance development and standard setting. It was established in 1991 by Islamic Development Bank and few of the Islamic bank groups like Al-Baraka Banking Group, KFH, Kuwait Finance House, Al-Bukhari Foundation, and Al-Faisal Group, etc. And we have 187 institutional members, including about 28 regulatory institutions. When I say regulatory institutions, they are like central banks, securities commissions, capital market authorities, insurance regulators, etc. And recently, Bank of Russia became our institutional member. We are run by General Assembly, Board of Trustees, PIMCC, Public Interest Monitoring Consultative Committee. I think Dr. Dink is a member of PIMCC. And we have 127 standards in issue, which are Sharia standards, accounting, auditing, governance, and ethics. And when I say 127 in issue, there are many superseded standards, about 30 plus are superseded standards, so 127 are in force. And we have 3 technical boards: Sharia board, accounting board, and governance and ethics board. And Dr. Kabir Hassan is one of the members of the governance and ethics board of IOFE. And geographical footprint is very important to know that IOFE standards are being adopted at different levels: full adoption, partial adoption, adoption as guidelines, or IOFE standard used in making and developing the local standard of their jurisdiction. For example, Indonesia, they don't adopt our standard, but then they adopt a lot of things, they take a lot of things from IOFE standards to develop their own set of standards. So 45 jurisdictions adopt our standards, and their standards are available in multiple languages: Arabic, English, French, Russian, Turkish, Bengali, and many of their languages are still in progress as we speak. And the secondary objectives of IOFE, of course, when we have standards, we should train people, we should have some capacity building all across, and for that we have different fellowship programs and training programs, etc. We'll come to that a little bit later. Defining ethics. The first paradigm of my presentation is ethics, and then financial inclusion, and goes on to social impact. Ethics as defined by IOFE Code of Ethics for Islamic Financial Professionals, we issued in 2020, says justice and excellence, that is achieving and maintaining adl and pursuing ihsan. Adl and ihsan. Adl is what we are just about to, just borderline, we just do adl. And excellence is going beyond what is required to be done, is excellence, is ihsan. So that is what it talks about. And this is the line of adl, the x-axis is line of adl that we are supposed to be doing. For example, for Islamic finance professional, if he is not doing his job properly, for example, if he's scrolling his social media during the office hours, that means he's going into zulm category. So he should be doing at least the adl, and then moving beyond is the area of ihsan, pursuing excellence. So that's what, the definition of ethics. This is the adl and ihsan equation. What it says is having the right intention and the right mindset, doing the right thing and in the right manner, and engaging with others positively. That completes the adl and ihsan equation, so to say. We have, if you want to go through the IOFE Code of Ethics, it's available on our website. It's a very, very, very comprehensive code of ethics that you must have not seen before. Any of the code of ethics available with the international organizations or conventional financial standing setting bodies is something very different from that. It comes directly from Quran and Hadith and all the sources that it's worth reading, giving a read. So the second paradigm is financial inclusion, which I have not included here, but just to let you know. I'll just want to explain it through a very quick anecdote. A guy who lost a bunch of keys is searching for his keys under the street light. And one guy sees him and says, okay, let me help him, and then ask him, what happened? What have you lost? He said, I have lost a bunch of keys. And then they both start searching, continue searching for the keys. And after some time, the guy asked, where did you drop this bunch of keys? And he said, right in that dark corner, I've dropped them. So why are you searching here? Because there is light here, that's why I'm searching here. So we actually are searching for the solutions to our social problems in the wrong place. We actually should be going there in the dark corner where he's lost the keys and searched there. So these social problems, social, ethical, and all those things should be, we should be searching, we are actually searching in the wrong place. So I'd like to give a quote from Dr. Joseph Stiglitz. He's a 2001 Nobel Prize laureate in economics, in social economics. He was also chief economist of the World Bank. In his words, let me quote, "Conventional financial systems systematically fail to serve the most vulnerable, often by design, excluded large swaths of population, not as a byproduct of insufficiency, but often as an outcome of how financial systems are structured. Mainstream finance, relying only on creditworthiness and conventional risk metrics, etc., systematically exclude poor and informal sectors." This is where our conventional finance is. They are structurally designed that way, to not to have an inclusive system, but an exclusive system. Again, Dr. Hernando de Soto, the Peruvian economist, in his book, Mystery of Capital, says, how conventional finance excludes poor by failing to recognize in informal assets as collateral. Again, one more Korean economist, Ha Jun Chang, critiques global financial system by reinforcing inequality and exclusion through rules that favor the already advantaged. These are not my words, these are the words of famous economists, which says that financial system as a whole, the global financial system, which favors the advantaged. So when it comes to Islamic finance, it is built, it is the design itself, it is inbuilt design to serve the economically weaker sections and have an inclusive financial system, be it Waqf, be it zakat system, be it any Islamic banks or anything. So it is inbuilt mechanism to serve the humanity, serve the society. Even banks, Islamic banks, CSR is just, we just have one, because I was part of HSBC Bank for 10 years. They say we just visit an orphanage or something twice a year or once a year, and then we have click photographs and do our CSR. But Islamic banks are not like that. Islamic finance is not like that. The inbuilt mechanism is like inclusion. So next, impact of social impact. Unlike philanthropy, social finance aims for its own sustainability by being profitable for investors. For example, Islamic bank, I'm an Islamic bank. I'm a profit-making institution. I'm not a charity organization. I have shareholders, I have board of directors to whom I should be showing the profit. So all the responsibility shouldn't be rested on my shoulders to do social finance and upliftment and weaker sections, elevate poverty, etc. So it is a whole circle that needs to be completed by all the stakeholders of society, including governments, including the local people, local leaders, and everybody. So it's a whole paradigm has to be completed, the whole circle has to be finished. Conceptually unique as an approach to solve social problems while creating economic value. There has to be a social angle to it with creating an economic value, of course. Collaborate with community at large for socially beneficial initiatives. What are the strengths we're talking about in Islamic finance for social economic development? Linkages with the real economy, always. For example, sukuk or any other financing product that needs to be linked to the real economy and not coming through, pulling the money through air, making money from thin air, what you call it. It has to be linked with the social, with the real economic activity. It has to have a social economic justice, have inclusion we just talked about, and moral and ethical. If you talk about this subprime crisis, it was a major ethical problem. All the rating agencies, they say that there's no crisis, and one fine morning you have a subprime crisis. Economic business growth, risk-reward sharing models. Islamic finance has inbuilt. Of course, in practice, I have seen that there are not much of risk-sharing models. Many of it, over 80% plus, is a Murabaha transaction, but the risk-sharing and Musharaka and all those, they are pretty less on the balance sheet of Islamic Bank, but still, this is one of the basic principles of risk-sharing models. Transparency and fairness, equitable distribution of wealth, increase market participation, and reduce adverse effect of harmful products and practices that, alcohol and, gambling and things like that. So we don't follow that. So what impact is Islamic finance creating currently? So promoting financial inclusion that we just talked about, and which people who are outside the financial system, we are including them, and providing access to Sharia-compliant financing, and ultimately creating wealth that Dr. Sharik talked about just before me, that creating maqasid al-Sharia, all 5 maqasid al-Sharia we are doing, creating wealth is one of them. What impact Islamic finance can have to create? CSR duties for compliance, develop MSMEs. 80% of any economy of any country, more than 80 to 90% are small-scale industries, micro, small-scale industries. So we should be developing that as Islamic finance practitioners. We should be aiming to. Now in Bahrain and many other countries, they have earmarked, they have separate funds to finance the SMEs. At least 20% of the bank's portfolio balance sheet should be financing should be go towards the financing of MSMEs. Not mimicking our conventional products, but real Islamic finance products, like based on Musharaka, Ijara, and others, and help develop entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the backbone, talking about the MSMEs and all. Social finance can be useful in education, entrepreneurship, poverty alleviation, environment, Sharia compliance, and healthcare. This is a little bit away from the topic from social finance, but I'd just like to draw your attention towards it. How we eliminate prohibited transactions and replace it with the Sharia compliant and Islamic finance transactions. For example, interest-bearing bank deposits, and we replace it with investments based on murabaha, musharaka, and wakala. Conventional bonds with sukuk, corporate and commercial SMEs based with ijara, diminishing musharaka, running musharaka, etc. Retail interest-based financing with Sharia-compliant products like ijara, murabaha, etc. House financing and mortgages with diminishing musharaka and ijara. I think mostly it is practiced here in the United States. And conventional insurance with takaful-based models, mudaraba model, and all those models that we have. Conventional mutual fund with Sharia-compliant mutual funds. Interbank deposits and treasury transactions at the central bank level to be based on mudaraba, wakala bil istismar. Wakala bil istismar, you do wakala, with investment accounts. So they replace that, and stock investment with Sharia compliant, already screened. I think it's already practiced here. So, replacing these with this. Coming back to social finance, IOFE in this context. What IOFE does in terms of in this context. For example, we have Sharia standards on zakah and waqf. We have IOFE financial accounting standards in zakah financial reporting by waqf institutions, financial reporting for zakah. IOFE governance standards, corporate social responsibility. This standard is going to be superseded. We have a new standard now coming up on responsible finance, which will supersede this GS7. And waqf governance, that rules and responsibilities, duties, rights, obligations of a waqif and the mutawalli and the mawquf alay, that is the person who is the waqif, who has given the property for waqf, and the beneficiaries, and of course the property. So all this Islamic crowdfunding and code of ethics and things. So IOFE has done quite a lot of work and discussions in the conference as well. So Islamic social finance and impact of social finance on Islamic finance. The couple of challenges that I have noted it down very quickly, we can go through. Firstly, regulatory framework. In many of the countries, they have very streamlined regulatory framework for social finance. Sometimes it may be lacking, or it may be falling short of what we'd expected out of. Lack of adequate awareness and education leading to misconception about Islamic finance. This is something very important for not even the United States, but also I have seen Malaysia and Bahrain and UAE, everywhere. A normal person on the street don't know what is Islamic finance is all about. Even in Malaysia, where we study, you go out of the university and then you don't know what is Islamic finance. So they have lots of misconceptions. So what we need to be doing always is, spread awareness. You are in a metro and you are talking to someone and just speak. You are in an aircraft, you just start speaking of Islamic finance. So slowly, this awareness, that's a key. And also lack of communication and awareness of Islamic social finance tools such as in modern applications. And lack of Islamic capital market for treasury products and large-scale products. Perception and cultural challenges. There are different perceptions here in this country. There might be different cultural inhibitions, cultural differences, so they might not be able to understand. And lack of synergy and coordination between the social Islamic finance institutions such as Waqf, Zakah, and in coordination with the mainstream banks like Islamic banks. Islamic banks are they doing their own work. Waqf institution are doing their own work. Zakah institution, they're doing their own work. There's no proper synergy. There's no talking to each other. There's no, communication and coordination. That's pretty one of the challenges of Islamic social finance. The way forward, ethics, as we talked about, financial practices rooted in justice and fairness, financial inclusion, reaching those excluded from the mainstream. Third paradigm, social impact, ensuring finance contributes to human development and social well-being. And together they create a holistic model for sustainable economic development. Islamic finance should be profit with purpose. Lastly, last slide, what IOFI can do, what IOFI is doing and what we can do is IOFI standard implementation support. We have standards out there. You can just have a look outside on the IOFE desk. What we can train people, what's implementation support we can give. If there is any query, for example, a financial accounting standard, we don't know how to treat that particular transaction, and we provide a support, written support or advisory support. Capacity building programs that many of you might already be aware. We have fellowship programs, certified professional accountant, certified Sharia auditor and advisor program, 2 fellowship programs, and again, few of the certificate programs at CPSS, and regulatory environment and collaboration.
We're going to have you exit that side.
Yes.
We thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.